Really? That sounds tough. Got it, I'll head over right away. For a moment, I thought I had misheard because of the pain. But it seemed like Jamie was saying he would go immediately in response to his sister-in-law's phone call. My sister was going to take a train to an idol concert. But it's not running due to an accident. She's in trouble. I'll go check on her. Saying that, Jamie opened the rear door of the car. You can get to the hospital on your own, right? As I bent over in pain, I was put out of the car along with the luggage. Given your condition, an ambulance should arrive soon. So call 911 and ask for help. I won't forgive anything happening to our future heir. With those words, Jamie drove off. Please, help. The number you have dialed is either out of range or turned off. The number you have dialed is. I repeated the same thing like a machine's voice, hung up the phone, and blocked Jamie's number. I am Claire Bradley, 27 years old. I am a primary school teacher, but currently on maternity leave. I am 9 months pregnant, and my due date is approaching. I am both anxious and excited about my first childbirth, looking forward to meeting my child. My husband, Jamie, is 30 years old, 3 years older than me. We met in a university club and started dating after graduation. 2 years ago, we got married and are now expecting our first child. When we announced the pregnancy to both our parents, they were happy and concerned about my well-being. However, one person showed a cold reaction. More than that, I wanted a day off for the concert next week. But the manager refused, so I quit my job in frustration. Even if they say they're short-staffed, I'll make them suffer. That's my sister-in-law. When I announced my pregnancy, she was the only one who treated it lightly and complained about her part-time job. My mother-in-law scolded her, but she responded coldly. It doesn't concern me, and besides, it's not certain the baby will be born healthy. I was irritated but didn't get angry, knowing her personality well. She is 7 years older than Jamie. She was spoiled by her grandparents since childhood, never shedding her princess attitude. This was evident even at our wedding. Usually, white is reserved for the bride, and guests avoid wearing it. However, she insisted on wearing a white dress. She showed up in a white, idol-like mini dress with lots of feather decorations. Looking back, she probably thought of our wedding as her own show. See, I look better in white. Sorry, the real star has vanished. My family and friends were stunned, and she mistook their shock for admiration. I couldn't close my mouth in surprise, and said nothing. Her inappropriate behavior and the lack of intervention from Jamie and his parents seemed bizarre. It made me and my parents feel incredibly uncomfortable. Before marriage, I thought Jamie was kind and wonderful. But at that moment, I felt something was off. However, I loved and trusted Jamie, so I turned a blind eye. I rationalized that Jamie and his parents had become indifferent to her bizarre behavior. Later, as a new life began, I had an off-campus learning trip to the planetarium with my second-grade students. Taking small children out of school requires utmost attention. As teachers, we must be vigilant to ensure that the children do not get lost or involved in accidents. Just as it's often said, the trip isn't over until we're back at school. We must stay alert until we return to school. Upon arriving at the planetarium, the vibration of my smartphone, set to silent mode in my bag, went off. I saw an incoming call from an unknown number on the screen. I usually don't answer calls from unknown numbers. Therefore, I initially ignored it. However, the phone kept ringing repeatedly and, thinking it might disrupt the planetarium show, I decided to turn it off completely. After the show ended, there was time to explore the exhibits in the Science Museum, as the museum staff would guide us for this part. The accompanying teachers had some time to relax. I sat on a sofa in the rest area with other teachers, and bought a can of coffee from the vending machine for a short break. When I turned on my smartphone, I was surprised by the unexpected number of missed calls. Initially, they were from an unknown number, but later changed to calls from Jamie. Worried that something might have happened to my in-laws, I excused myself from my colleagues and stepped aside to make a call. "You took forever. What were you doing?" He scolded me with an annoyed tone. I explained that I had informed him about the field trip today, and also that I had turned off my phone so it wouldn't disturb the planetarium show. "You could have just left it on vibrate. Anyway, the planetarium is in the city forest park, right? The science museum with the planetarium is adjacent to a municipal forest park. It's a bit hard to access from the city, only reachable by car or bus. There's a gorilla live performance of my sister's second favorite idol at the outdoor theater. They're selling limited edition photos with today's date. Can you buy some for me?" At first, I thought he was joking. I explained that I was here for work and couldn't leave my post for personal errands before finishing my job. The forest park is vast, and it would take over 20 minutes to walk between the science museum and the outdoor theater. Additionally, the weather was rainy, and there was no way I could go buy photos for my sister-in-law in such conditions. I firmly said no and reiterated to Jamie that I was currently working. "I'm disappointed in you, Claire. I thought you were a kinder person. You're always nicer, please go and buy them." Jamie tried to persuade me, but I insisted that I was working and couldn't go regardless of what he said. Jamie, furious, shouted before hanging up, "Fine. I'm disappointed in you." I was shocked by his words, feeling a cold wind blow through my heart. This unreasonable demand from Jamie was unexpected and left me with an indescribable feeling of disgust. I suppressed my emotions and finished the field trip. When I got home, Jamie was not there, but I received a message on my smartphone saying he was waiting at my in-laws' house. I didn't want to go, but I had no choice, so I decided to walk to my in-laws' house, about a 15-minute walk away. Upon arrival, Jamie, his parents, and his sister were all there. "You're really awful, Claire. Apologize to my sister." That was the first thing he said. My sister-in-law apparently learned about her favorite idol's gorilla live performance during her part-time job and quickly left work to rush to the outdoor theater. However, by the time she arrived, the limited edition photos she was hoping to buy had already sold out. Look at her. She's been crying the whole time. My sister-in-law was wiping her tears, looking down. Jamie comforted her with a sympathetic look. My in-laws looked at me with an apologetic expression, but they did not try to stop their own daughter and son who were causing a scene. They simply watched our situation without intervening. My sister-in-law cried for a while, but then she wiped her face with an idol merchandise towel, smiled brightly, and said something. "It's okay, now. But buy this for me instead." She thrust her smartphone toward me, showing a screen from a flea market app. "Good for you. Claire Bradley just said she'd forgive you if you buy this for her." Displayed on the screen was a photo of the limited ones from today's Gorilla live show. What? It's $300? A bromide, normally sold for $5, was now priced at an astonishing $300. See? It's cheap, right? Just this and she'll forgive you. Just this? Isn't it too expensive? $300 for just a piece of paper? My sister-in-law gazed at me with a hopeful smile, extending her smartphone in her right hand and cutely pressing her clenched left hand to her mouth, trying to maximize her charm. Jamie looked at her profile affectionately, while my in-laws once again looked at me with an apologetic expression. However, they did not take any action. I had no intention of getting dragged into this farce. I had to make it clear here and now, or else I would always be involved in my sister-in-law's troubles. So I decided to give in just this once. All right, I'll buy this photo. My sister-in-law instantly brightened up, clapping her hands joyously. By the way, this isn't because I want to be forgiven. This is the first and the last time. I have no intention of doing anything for my sister-in-law in the future. I swear it in my heart. Hearing this, Jamie and my sister-in-law were shocked, their eyes wide, while the in-laws looked confused, exchanging glances. Afterward, I silently purchased a $300 photo and left my in-laws' house alone. When I got home, Jamie seemed to be staying at his parents' house for a while, not returning home. But suddenly, as if thinking I had calmed down, he came home. I accepted him quietly. I didn't want to ask what my sister-in-law did with the photo. Nor did I intend to have any more to do with her in the future. Jamie, perhaps sensing my resolve, stopped talking about my sister-in-law entirely. We returned to our normal life as a couple, spending peaceful days together. During this time, feeling unwell for several days, I suspected something and bought a pregnancy test at the pharmacy. The result was positive. I was pregnant. To report this, I visited my in-laws' house for the first time in months, and they were very happy. However, my sister-in-law, as usual, treated it lightly, saying, more importantly. After that, I had no further encounters with my sister-in-law, and fortunately, my baby developed well. A boy was growing healthily inside me. Thinking about him made me very excited about the future. Then came the time of childbirth. Surprised by the sudden water break, I prepared to head to the hospital. Labor pains started soon after. Are you okay? I'll take you to the hospital right away. Jamie gently helped me into the car and drove towards the hospital. In the mix of anxiety and anticipation, having Jamie by my side felt incredibly reassuring. I calmed myself down, placed my hand on my stomach, and reassured the baby, it's okay, we'll meet soon. At that moment, a familiar ringtone sounded. It was Jamie's smartphone. It was a call from my sister-in-law. What's up, sis? He stopped the car to answer the phone. I felt anxious. I just wanted to go to the hospital, but that was not to be. I endured the escalating pain. Oh. That sounds tough. Got it, I'll be there right away. Jamie was talking on the phone. Amidst my pain, I thought I heard him say, I'll be right there. My sister was supposed to take a train to an idol concert. But it's not running due to a person under train accident. She's in trouble. I'll go check on her. Then, Jamie opened the door of the back seat where I was. Hey, you can get to the hospital on your own, right? Jamie clearly stated it. As I was enduring the pain, I was put out of the car along with the luggage. With your condition, an ambulance should be fine. Call 911 and ask for help. I won't forgive anything happening to our future heir. With those words, Jamie drove off. I was left on the street with my luggage, unable to do anything but stand. In such a situation, I didn't know how to react, and at that moment, I couldn't do anything due to the pain and confusion. Forgetting feelings of anger and anxiety, I unexpectedly burst into laughter. Fortunately, there were no passers-by around, so I didn't need to worry about laughing loudly. Despite my head being calm, my body couldn't stop laughing. I'd like to call an ambulance, please. The location is. I stopped and called for an ambulance. I gave them the name of the building and landmarks around me to explain my location. Luckily, the ambulance arrived quickly and took me to the hospital. Immediately upon arrival, preparations for childbirth began. I called my parents and explained everything that had happened in a matter-of-fact manner. They were at a loss for words but promised to come to the hospital right away. When I was put out of the car, I thought I could manage alone. But knowing my family was nearby brought me comfort. Waves of pain were hitting me. But I was making steady progress in the childbirth preparations with the support of the medical staff. A short while later, my smartphone rang. It was a moment when the labor pains had subsided. Looking at the screen, I saw a call from the last person I wanted to hear from right now. It was my husband, Jamie. I ignored it for a while, but as it went to voicemail, the calls kept coming, so I decided to answer. I didn't care about Jamie but couldn't stand the constant ringing. As I pressed the call button, I heard Jamie's voice. "Hello, Claire. I'm glad you picked it up." His voice had a sense of relief. Maybe he was worried about me and the baby. But that hope was quickly dashed. "Help me, please." Jamie was asking for help. I was baffled. Here I was, about to give birth, and he's asking for help? Actually, there's a bit of trouble at a service area. The number you have dialed is either out of range or turned off. The number you have dialed is. I imitated the voice message of the answering machine and eventually hung up, setting Jamie's number to reject future calls. After that, a healthy baby boy was born. The delivery was surprisingly smooth. Perhaps due to the unexpected events that had just occurred, I didn't feel much pain. The nurses were amazed that this was my first birth. The time spent with my newborn son was special. The birth was quicker than expected, so my parents, who had rushed from afar, couldn't be there for it. They arrived feeling guilty but were relieved to see me and my son healthy. Their smiles upon seeing their grandson made me feel happy. I didn't inform my in-laws about the birth. If they wanted to know, Jamie should tell them himself. However, I had no intention of letting my in-laws meet my son. This child is mine alone and has no relation to my husband's family. I asked the hospital to deny visits, except for my own parents, as I had instructed them not to inform me if anyone came and to turn them away. I didn't meet anyone from my husband's family during my hospital stay. 5 days after being hospitalized, I returned to my parents' home with them. Then, I hired a lawyer to start divorce proceedings. The lawyer said that leaving a pregnant woman in labor on the roadside was more than enough reason for a divorce. The lawyer mentioned that abandoning a pregnant woman about to give birth by the roadside is a terrible act. I agree completely. The lawyer was astonished to hear this and explained that this could be considered as abandonment by a person in charge of protection, or malicious abandonment leading to injury. I recall that during labor, Jamie had called asking for help. However, I had shut out all communication from Jamie and his family, so I had no way of knowing what had happened that day. I asked the lawyer to find out what had transpired. Later, the lawyer relayed some unbelievable details. After leaving me on the roadside, Jamie had taken his sister to a concert venue. On the way, they stopped at a service area on the highway. It takes about an hour and a half to reach the venue by train or bus. So my sister-in-law had left home early with plenty of time, intending to enjoy a meal on the way. Of course, she planned to have Jamie pay for everything. After eating local specialties at the service area, just as they were about to re-enter the car to head to the venue, my sister-in-law swung open the car door forcefully, hitting the adjacent vehicle. This act is commonly referred to as a door dinging, and caused significant damage to the other car. Normally, one would apologize to the owner of the dinged car and contact the police or insurance company. But surprisingly, my sister-in-law and Jamie chose to flee. No one saw, so it's fine. I absolutely can't miss the live show. Just as Jamie was about to drive away, the owner of the other car returned. They were a group of 4 imposing-looking individuals. Jamie was surrounded and couldn't move. He was dragged out of the car and confronted for trying to escape. At that time, my sister-in-law was pleading to be let go because she might miss the live show. Her self-centered behavior, which had always worked with her family, was not going to work with strangers. especially those she had just tried to flee from after hitting their car. My sister-in-law's attempts at acting cute and repeated pleas probably only seemed adorable to her own family. Needless to say, they were ineffective with the victims. Realizing they wouldn't listen and fearing she wouldn't make it to the live show's merchandise sale time, my sister started crying hysterically. The scene, with the imposing individuals questioning them for trying to escape, and my sister-in-law dressed extravagantly for the concert and crying, caused a commotion at the service area, involving employees and other customers. At that time, Jamie didn't know what to do and called me for help. I was astonished at his actions. Had he forgotten that I was in the middle of childbirth and heading to the hospital? Or did he think I would stop giving birth to come and help him? Maybe his plea for help was for me to take my sister-in-law to the live show. Regardless of the reason, I was in no position to go and help. Even if I could have moved, the thought of going to help in such a situation was utterly frustrating. They should solve the problem they created themselves. Furthermore, this incident revealed that Jamie had not insured the car. I had been giving him money from our finances for insurance, but it turned out he had been using it for other purposes. That money had become my sister-in-law's allowance. At 37 years old, my sister-in-law was still a part-time worker chasing idols. She could find a job easily due to her qualifications, but she refused to do so, fearing she wouldn't get time off for concerts. She often got fired from her part-time jobs due to unapproved absences or quitting on a whim. And eventually, no one would hire her. It turned out she had been receiving a little bit of money from her part-time jobs and additional allowances from her parents and Jamie, spending it as she pleased. Jamie had been giving her the insurance money as an allowance, pretending not to know. The car they hit was a luxury foreign model. Naturally, the repair costs would be substantial and out of their own pocket. Jamie had the audacity to suggest that we pay for the repairs together as a couple, but I flatly refused. The divorce negotiations turned out to be quite messy. Jamie was furious with the lawyer, unable to understand why he should be divorced. I just drove my sister to the live show so she wouldn't be late. No one could have predicted getting involved in such trouble along the way. That's right, it's the fault of those men. Jamie did nothing wrong. They're making a big deal out of a small scratch. They both complained bitterly, playing the victims. For some reason, Jamie seemed to misunderstand that I wanted to divorce him because of that accident. Wanting a divorce just because I caused a car accident, what is Claire thinking? It's ridiculous. Please tell her to come back home quickly. Exactly, divorcing over something like that is absurd. After bad-mouthing the victims, they proceeded to speak ill of me. Jamie's parents, while Jamie and my sister-in-law were bad-mouthing me, looked confused and, as usual, remained silent. I could easily imagine the scene as if I had seen it myself. When the lawyer explained that the cause of the divorce was not the accident but Jamie leaving a pregnant woman in labor in the car and abandoning her, they looked genuinely shocked. What, that's the reason? But Claire got safely to the hospital by ambulance and gave birth to the child, right? What's the problem? She's being overly dramatic. Right, should I have just left my sister, who might not make it to the live show because of the stopped trains? Taking her is the normal thing to do. Jamie confidently asserted this, and my sister-in-law nodded vigorously in agreement next to him. Jamie's parents, it seems, just made troubled faces and remained silent. The lawyer was at a loss for words on how to explain to this troublesome family. The lawyer made it clear that the accident had nothing to do with the divorce, and that it was a matter for Jamie's family to resolve. He explained in detail how terrible Jamie's actions were. Despite several explanations, Jamie believed that all was well since I was taken to the hospital by ambulance. And both mother and child were healthy. However, after the lawyer persistently explained that in the worst-case scenario, both I and the baby might not have been safe and that Jamie could have been held responsible, he finally seemed to understand the severity of the situation. Jamie turned pale and trembled as he asked if he and my sister-in-law could be charged with a crime. The lawyer lamented that even after realizing the gravity of the situation, Jamie was still more concerned about himself and my sister-in-law than me and our child. Eventually, the divorce was finalized, although it was a lengthy process. I felt relieved to cut ties with Jamie's family, but Jamie still seemed to hold on to hope, calling me multiple times and sending reconciliation messages on social media. His persistence led me to block him again, but then he started sending letters to my parents' house. The letter said, "I never thought Claire would be angry over something like that. Since we're both safe, divorcing over one mistake is too harsh. You used to be more understanding, give me another chance. It's sad for our son to be an only child, and we should try for a daughter next. Plus, our son is the heir to the Bradley family, so give him back. Then I'll recognize you again as the wife of the Bradley family. It's a good deal, right?" The letter started cautiously but gradually became more commanding. It seemed my sister-in-law had advised him on this, as the letter ended with, "So, my sister-in-law says she's willing to forgive you now, think about it." I had anticipated the letter's tone, but I couldn't help laughing out loud at the final punchline. After that, Jamie stopped contacting me. This was because the lawyer warned him that any further contact would result in an increase in child support. The moment money was mentioned, Jamie quickly gave up, which made me chuckle at his priorities. It seems money was more important to him than his own son. As for Jamie's parents, they were like extras in a movie, never expressing their own will. They never reached out to see their grandson, so I felt no need to contact them. I couldn't trust any member of Jamie's family, so I had them pay the property division and child support in one lump sum. I anticipated they might stop paying midway, and I couldn't bear the thought of maintaining a relationship with them for years. The total amount, including the property division, child support, and car repair costs, was significant. They had to mortgage their house and take out a loan in Jamie's name to pay the full amount as I requested. It's not my concern anymore, but I hope they don't have to give up their home. The amount I received in property division and child support is far from covering the expenses until our son becomes an adult. Once I recover a bit more and my son settles down, I plan to return to my job as a teacher. Fortunately, my parents have offered to help, so we should manage just fine. I intend to raise my son to be a self-sufficient individual with his own will. I don't want him to end up like his father, an aunt who care only about blood ties, or his grandparents who remain silent and without purpose. Although my marriage was disappointing, I am grateful for my son. I look forward to living happily with him as a mother and son. If I find someone in the future who truly cares for my son as their own, I might consider a new happy life with them.